Alasdair, hello.
Hello, Sam. How are you?
I'm good. I'm enjoying a bank holiday weekend. How are you?
Oh, me too. It should be merely a memory by the time this goes out, but I'm also loving having a 4-day weekend.
I know. We were just saying before recording this, I think it should come into legislation that we only work 4-day weeks and we always have 3 or 4-day weekends.
But really. Only 4-day weekends now, please.
I know. I did find, though, weirdly, I got like the Sunday scaries on actual Sunday, and I was getting annoyed at myself because I was like, I feel like I'm like wasting part of the day being anxious about going back to work when I know I've got a full day after this to enjoy. Yeah, weirdly.
It's one of just the worst feelings. Sunday evenings are a very cursed time.
I know. I think it's something about like the deep rooting of like school anxiety. I remember my dad would always watch this TV show about like finding stuff in a junkyard and like making it into inventions on a Sunday night. I can't remember what it was called. Time Team. No, was it Time Team? Something like that.
No, and Time Team was archaeological.
Time Team was archaeological. There was something about junkyard. Anyway, he would always watch that. I think he'd probably watch Time Team as well on a Sunday afternoon. I remember like as soon as that came on TV, I was like, oh, it's dinner time, and then it's bedtime, and then it's school. And I think that's like deep rooted in me.
It does all start with school, doesn't it? The reason for me I get the Sunday scaries from like school is that I'm king of last minute. Anything I can
I've never noticed that before.
Anything I can do at the last second. If I've got an hour to fill, I'll fill the hour. If I've got half an hour, I'll use half an hour. It's just how I operate.
I'll get it done in the minimum time allotted.
Yes. I'll use just the last 5 minutes, and just badly estimate how much time I have. And so homework for me was always a disaster at school.
Oh, really?
I just left everything to Sunday nights, and then it got too late and I didn't do it. And then I'd try and do it in a break time, like right before.
Oh, you were a
period.
Break time homework? Oh, no, that stresses me out.
I was worse than that. Do you remember, did you ever have, what was it? Was it My Maths, that website? You got maths?
Oh, yeah. We had My Maths, yeah.
I was king of like, oh my God, like My Maths broke. It didn't work for me.
My login wouldn't let me log in.
My login didn't work on My Maths. I would, sometimes I went to quite like elaborate lengths. We realized in school that what you could do if eventually when it got to like the stage where we could give in things like with a USB stick, like, oh, I've got my USB stick. We'd bring it in and people would either like just paste loads of nonsense characters all the way through the document and be like, oh my God, it's been corrupted. Or we'd like actually corrupt the file so that we'd give it in and be like, why isn't it opening? And be like, I don't know, but there it is. Like,
I don't even know how you could corrupt a file. I love that you taught yourselves how to corrupt a file.
Anything but write the essay. In the end, like the approach was like, well, you've not given it to me in a format I can use, so it's a detention. And I was like,
I was such goody two shoes. I remember there was definitely times that the worst one for not doing my homework was we were in geography. Welcome to after school sessions with Sam and Alasdair, by the way.
I know, this is taking a pivot.
I know. We had to make a diorama of an area for geography, and I forgot about it, and I went to the school library at lunchtime before geography, and I just printed out on the black and white printer in the library lots of like mini houses and like glued them down to a piece of A4 paper, and that was my diorama. But I was such a goody two shoes because I genuinely forgot that. I then felt so guilty about doing that I then I sculpt a lot. I like hand sculpted some miniature houses and then went in like the next session I was like, this is my actual one, whoa, and like rehab.
She was like, real one after.
Yeah, literally, she was like, I don't get, like, she must have, I think about now, she must have only been like 26, 27, the teacher, and she was like, I don't get, like, sure, fine, all right, like,
fine, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like I did my homework quite early this week though, because I watched the episode we're talking about today. I watched it on like Wednesday last week. I watched it like before we posted last week's.
I watched it 2 hours ago. Does that surprise you?
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. I work well under time pressure.
There you go. Well, it's a fun one this week, though. I think it's a kind of like an easily one to watch casually.
It is, and I watched the behind the scenes as well. I watched the behind the scenes before I rewatched the episode this week.
Did you? You watched the behind the scenes first? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Why?
Don't know. It was longer, and I was more worried about time. I was like, if I really run out of time, Curse of Fatal Death is 20 minutes.
I guess, yeah.
But the behind the scenes is 50. So I better do this one first.
That is true. I do find it so funny that the behind the scenes is longer than the episode we're talking about. For anyone who hasn't put two and two together, we're talking about The Curse of the Fatal Death today.
The Curse of Fatal Death.
Yeah, it's the 1999 comic release special. It came out on the 12th of March 1999 to a viewership. So the comic relief that year had 6.83 million viewers on average. That wasn't necessarily, though, while this sketch was airing. I think they split it into 4 parts and aired it throughout the night, so you have to keep watching the whole night. And it has an IMDb score of 7.9 out of 10.
Sam, shall we jump into the story of this very short sketch for anyone who hasn't had a chance to see it?
Yes, we should. No, it's quite funny. It's a fairly long sketch in regards to comic release specials, but it's on YouTube for anyone who wants to watch it. And it's also had a home video release, so maybe you have the VHS tape. For anyone who hasn't seen it in a while, or maybe has never seen it, here's a quick recap of the story.
The story opens in the Master's TARDIS, where he accidentally reveals his master plan to the Ninth Doctor, played by Rowan Atkinson, due to him not realising his microphone was left on. The Doctor tells him that he has news to share and they should meet in the ruins of the planet Tercerus. They meet, and though the Master tries to outwit the Doctor by going back in time to bribe the Architect to place traps, the Doctor outsmarts him at every turn, going back further to bribe the Architect first.
The Doctor announces his retirement, having found love with his companion, Emma. The Master retaliates this news by trying to get them to fall down a trapdoor. However, the plan backfires and he falls through, taking 312 years to get back to the surface. He returns to the present in his TARDIS, this time bringing an army of Daleks with him to help defeat the Doctor. This doesn't, however, stop him from falling again, this time spending centuries more in the sewers of Tercerus.
The Doctor and Emma are brought onto the Dalek ship, where they've made a deal with the now young Master to conquer the universe together. The Doctor learns that the Daleks plan to kill the Master once he's fulfilled his use, so he warns him by speaking the language of Tercerus, farting. The Daleks cotton on and end up exterminating the Doctor, forcing him to regenerate.
He ends up regenerating through his 10th, 11th and 12th bodies in the span of a few minutes, taking on multiple faces. Though he seems to have used up his final life, the Doctor regenerates one more time, this time into a woman that looks surprisingly like Joanna Lumley, much to Emma's confusion. Emma tells the Doctor that she doesn't want to marry her anymore, however the Master shows a keen interest in this new body. They leave together to explore the universe, and maybe each other.
Whoa.
Wink, wink.
So we should also talk about the cast of this episode, because we have a pretty stellar cast of Doctors in this one.
We do.
So we have Rowan Atkinson playing the Ninth Doctor, Richard E. Grant plays the quite handsome Doctor, Jim Broadbent plays the shy Doctor, Hugh Grant plays the handsome Doctor, and Joanna Lumley plays the female Doctor.
Yes, and then we also have Julia Sawalha playing Emma, the companion, Jonathan Pryce playing the Master, and both Roy Skelton and Dave Chapman voicing the Daleks.
Yes. Dave Chapman here, we've got down as one of the Dalek voices. My digging into this, it looked to me like Roy Skelton may have actually done the voices and Dave Chapman did the puppeteering for the Daleks, because Dave Chapman, that's his gig, is as a puppeteer. And actually, fun fact, I'll give you a fun one early.
Oh.
Dave Chapman also puppeteered BB-8 in Star Wars.
Oh, what a gig. What a gig. Well, there you go. Maybe Dave Chapman was the
gig.
Puppeteer instead of the voice. Wikipedia lied to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Useless.
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple of tweets as well. We reached out to you on X, the app formerly known as Twitter, and here's a couple of thoughts that you sent across about the episode. Jenny, at Dimensions and Jen, said, canon, alternate timeline stated by Moffat to be a comedy continuation and not a spoof, and the greatest Doctor Who story ever.
George said, it might be cheesy, but that's the point and I love it. For me, it takes the mick out of Doctor Who, particularly classic Who, in an amusing and honestly kind of accurate way, allowing even us Whovians to poke fun at the show. Also, Joanna Lumley is the Doctor. Iconic!
And Matt said, I'll explain later.
Yeah.
That was one of the funniest bits for me in this.
Such a fun story. We're given quite a sincere retelling of the plot. Obviously, it's ridiculous.
Oh, it's insane.
But it's a very affectionate parody. It's done with a lot of love. Did we mention that Stephen Moffat wrote this one? Maybe we
No, I don't think we did.
Yeah.
It's a Stephen Moffat's premiere writing for Doctor Who.
This is his first outing writing Doctor Who on TV. There's a behind the scenes special included with the VHS release of Curse of the Fatal Death. And I feel Stephen Moffat looks almost exactly the same. He's certainly got the same haircut. You felt he looked quite a lot younger.
It was just weird to see
late
him.
90s.
Yeah, it's just weird. I mean, maybe I'm just so used to seeing Stephen Moffat a la the late teenies. But yeah, I definitely felt I looked like a bit younger. But if I heard his voice, like his voice, exactly the same, like the way he talks, and also like the way he talks about Doctor Who, exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just very funny that this is actually a Stephen Moffat story. I really like as well. Ties in nicely with the recent confirmation as well that Stephen Moffat is coming back to
Yeah,
Doctor Who, and we know the
is.
name of his story in season 1 is going to be Boom.
Boom, exactly. No, I think it's quite fitting to be talking about a Stephen Moffat episode when he's coming back, especially one outside of his own era. And let me tell you this, it does not get much further from the Stephen Moffat era than The Curse of Fatal Death.
Well, you say that. There's a few Moffatisms that have been collected that we return to later, either in New Who or in the new era. One of them is romance between companions,
Yeah.
which we get a lot in the modern era, beginning with Rose, but specifically with the Doctor having a wife in River Song, a Moffat character, and he also wrote Madame de Pompadour. We had another romance in series 2 there.
He did.
We have Aliens That Fart via the Slitheen family. We have the 10th Doctor promising to his companions that he will explain later in the Moffat-penned episode The Girl in the Fireplace.
Oh, I wonder if that was like a deliberate little pen.
I feel like it was a little nod back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Doctor retires from his travels in the 2012 episode The Snowmen. Not to get married, just kind of grieving Amy and Rory. In the Victorian era, of all places.
Said, I'm done.
I'm done. Had enough. I'm all gamed out. And then you may have caught as well Emma's brief eulogy for the Doctor. He was never cruel, never cowardly, which reappears in 2013's The Day of the Doctor, also written by Moffat, given as part of the Doctor's promise to the universe. However, this phrase was not actually first coined by Stephen Moffat. It first appeared in the 1972 reference book, The Making of Doctor Who, written by Terence Dix, who was script editor for the Third Doctor's era and author of Doctor Who books.
Oh.
He coined the phrase, never cruel or cowardly, he never gives in and he never gives up, to describe the Doctor.
Oh, lovely. I always associate that with Stephen Moffat, but good to know that it's got deeper roots than that.
Yes, and finally, Stephen Moffat also would later explore through Rusty and Misty the idea of Daleks and the Master turning good.
Exactly. There are a lot. Okay, I take it back. Maybe you could be further from the Moffatverse.
Well, I guess as well, it's horny. I feel like a Moffatism in itself is just, a lot of wink winks, a lot of innuendo. He loves innuendo.
This is the thing. When it doesn't surprise me. I mean, obviously there was romance in the Doctor Who movie, which we recently covered as well on Wholala. You can go back and listen to that if you are that way inclined. But it doesn't surprise me that one of the first time the Doctor actually shows interest in a companion isn't a Moffat-penned episode.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely is the horny Doctor writer.
Yeah, and I think it was almost a nod back to that. There's something that he says in the behind the scenes, which is, Doctor Who fans will definitely be offended by this, but Doctor Who fans are offended by everything. And the vast majority will not be offended because most Doctor Who fans kind of take Doctor Who for what it is and don't expect it to be a serious show. And they know that it's funny and they know that it's silly.
Yeah.
Which I think is true and evergreen. An evergreen take there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, me too. It's funny, you were messaging me about that and you said evergreen. I had no idea what that meant. I thought I'd missed something where he'd quoted the word evergreen and I was like, okay. I had no idea what that meant. I learnt a word today.
You learnt a big word. I'm happy for you.
I learnt a big word. Well, big words and big actors in this because Rowan Atkinson, I think we've got to dive into talking about him because he is the Doctor. And I've got to say, I actually think he's a pretty great Doctor. I think he, apparently, again, in the behind the scenes, he was saying that he had always wanted to play the Doctor. So he was the first person that they managed to grab to be onto this project. But I think he would have been such a great full run Doctor. I think he's got the humour, the wit, the quickness, the cleverness, but also like that even in a sketch like this, there's like a little tone that he can do serious quite well. And I think given the opportunity, he would have been a very, very good Doctor in his own run. But he's the perfect kind of person you get for this because it goes without saying that this was obviously in 1999. This was during the wilderness years and there was no like confirmation Doctor would ever come back. I think it had gained a reputation for being quite silly and eccentric. But I think that the reason this got made is because there was a core group of people who really believed in Doctor Who as a project, and like Richard Curtis, like Stephen Moffat, and as you were saying earlier, Richard Curtis did go on to write on Doctor Who in Vincent and the Doctor. And I think that Rowan Atkinson's performance of the Doctor is a really great way of kind of amalgamizing different aspects of previous Doctors. I see a lot of John Pertwee, I see a lot of Tom Baker, I see a lot of Paul McGann, and also taking it in a new direction that if this was given maybe a more serious platform, I could imagine him as the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah. He is a plausible Doctor in this bit. In fact, I think pretty much all of them are. I like the way that they capture different kind of exaggerations of the Doctor's personality that come out with each round. The quite handsome Doctor, the handsome Doctor. Who are the handsome Doctor, the Hugh Grant Doctor, feels to me that is just meant to be like the DT Doctor later on. Obviously, that's not based on him yet because he hasn't done it yet. Unsurprisingly, I believe Russell T Davies said that the Hugh Grant Doctor was one that he likes, which really doesn't surprise me given that he keeps writing kind of suave, sexy Doctors. The quite handsome Doctor, could be a number of them. I like Jim.
I thought that was such a read. Oh, you're not the handsome Doctor, you're the quite handsome Doctor.
And also like the very up himself one as well. I like his his mirror lick moment. He said, "I look mirror lickingly good," and then takes this fat lick of the mirror in front of him.
It was so fun. Like I had that as a note. It's such a. I've got like a little section which I'm sure we'll pepper throughout the episode of just quotes that I like.
Yeah.
And yeah, lick the mirror handsome. I think it's very Doctor and very like 10th Doctor-y.
Yes. Jim Broadbent's shy Doctor. I don't know if that necessarily mimics one in particular. It reminds me of almost like how Matt Smith's Doctor gets around women though.
I see that, yeah.
I'd like to jump into another high since you've mentioned Rowan Atkinson. I love Jonathan Pryce in this. It's so
Me
funny.
too.
I put the note that he put his whole pussy into this performance.
He really did.
Just thought it was so funny. And it'll be a deadly vengeance. It'll be the deadly vengeance of deadly revenge. He just really went for it. And if you were thinking like, okay, he really did his research and he really understood the characters that he was basing this on. No, he didn't. Because he, in the BTS, is like, oh yes, I did lots of research. I looked at photographs of previous masters for seconds and contemplated the way that they looked. And that apparently is like all that he basically did. He didn't watch any previous performances. He hadn't seen Doctor Who before. He just was given some pictures of like, these are some of the other masters. And he was like, right, got it. And off that, I think just did almost like camp pantomime villain. And that was basically the correct interpretation to do. I really enjoyed it. And what's funny as well is he's obviously having so much fun doing it. When they interview him in this behind the scenes clip, he refuses to break character. He's just like being the master the whole time he's being spoken to in his, ridiculous costume that he's got on. Second of all, whenever he's reading lines for the actors on screen, because he's not in a particular shot, but, he needs to like lead them in, he is constantly breaking, which is so funny as well, because he obviously finds the content so funny and he's still delivering it in this completely over the top way. It just made me laugh.
No, it's so funny. I love there's a clip in the behind the scenes as well where I promise we do talk about the actual episode as well. We're not just going to talk about the behind the scenes, but he's giving them a line, and again he's like in his costume but without the beard off screen. He gives the line. He goes, and now again in Welsh, and he like starts to read the line in Welsh, and they're like, I think he's just trying to make them laugh. I love him. I wrote he's a great master. So many of the people on here, I'm like, yeah, of course, if you put them into a real episode of Doctor Who, it would be completely over the top and camp. But I think that he's visually like the costume and hair and makeup team, like he's very emblematic of the master. If you just look at him, it's quite easy to go, oh, that's the master. But his performance, he really does capture that, because there is something inherently camp about the master's performance anyway, just in previous masters. I don't know if you've ever actually seen this. There's I think it's a video game with Anthony Ainley's master. Now, he was the master from the 4th Doctor until the 7th Doctor. And it's like a Doctor Who video game where he plays the master and he's the only filmed character. And he has like a master car. And it's just him talking to the camera as if the audience. And it's like the campus, silliest. It is as absurd as this is.
I've never seen this.
Oh my God, I have seen some clips. It's so, if these clips end up on Wholala, all over our X account, like, it's because me and Alistair started posting them after
Yeah.
this. But it's that level of like absurdist master, and it's so funny that like, because you're right, he just said he glanced at a picture for a few seconds and was like, cool, I get the gist. It's actually quite on the nose for like a performance of the master. It's so dumb.
It's really, really good. It's a great performance. Brings all the appropriate villainy and silliness, and also like somehow gets to like the nonsense of the character of the master.
Exactly. And same in like a similar breath, Julia Sawala's companion, Emma, or as they were still calling her, the assistant of the Doctor. She actually makes for quite a fun companion. I actually wrote Julia Sawala's Emma is a great companion with a cunty outfit.
Yeah.
Because I actually really like it's quite like a classic Doctor Who companion outfit. There's one outfit that Romana wears, Romana 1, that's fairly similar, but it's not, they could have just like copied a companion from before and been like, oh, she's playing, Sarah Jane, or she's playing whatever. But to like create a fake, like a new companion for this, I think it was really smart. And I think she was very, very good casting for it.
Yeah, she's a good companion, this. There's a couple of things. Yes, one, the character of Emma is great. I feel like they did a little bit of a kind of modern restyling of the quote assistant here. They obviously went in very aware of what an assistant traditionally was, and Julia was certainly aware of it. She says it a lot in the BTS, like, previously it was all kind of like, screaming and asking silly questions and being sexy, and she obviously doesn't have like a massive amount of like reverence for the role of the assistant. And in fact, she says that I think she was approached in the past to actually play a companion and didn't actually even want to audition for it. Was that just wasn't interested, just didn't fancy it.
Oh, I never knew that.
I think just truly was like, it's just not the sort of thing I want to do. And said that she can see, she said as well that she consulted Louise Jameson about being a companion, and she said, but not the sexy bits, the smart bits of being kind of an assistant. So it was nice that I guess they restyled it a bit, that they gave her some quips and they gave her a little bit of kind of something more to do to make her an interesting character in this, rather than just be like a helpless damsel the whole way through, but part of her kind of being immediately tied up and, Doctor, what are we going to do? It's all obviously part of the trope as well.
Yeah, well, what I quite like, I mean, obviously this is all a big kind of, I don't even want to say parody, because I feel like parody is a bit minimalistic for this show. It's definitely, there's a bit more reverence to it than that. But she plays on the tropes of that. And what I like about her is she, like you said, she's kind of a bridge between a classic assistant and a modern companion, where like she will ask questions. She'll be like, well, why are there chairs in a Dalek spaceship?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we will explain later. But she always just takes that as like, okay, like that's fine. She doesn't ask any more questions.
All right.
Like she also like comments, they're running through the corridors and she's like, all these corridors look the same. She's like saying the stuff that we're thinking, which I think is quite funny. Because as is with any good companion, she's the audience's eyes.
Yeah. It gives me like a certain respect, I think, for Stephen Moffat as well, like to have such a profound love for something and be comfortable to like point out the silliness of it and return to it years later and still almost like write a show that still has those problems baked into it. Of course, the corridors all look the same, because that's the budget we're working with, and they still make fun in The Magician's Apprentice about Daleks having chairs. Like, none of it makes sense, but that's why we love it. Yeah, great fun. You're right. It is like a halfway point, isn't it, between the classic and the new companion, and poking fun at the whole thing.
I think that Stephen Moffat is the perfect person to pen this because, like you were saying, he has so much love for the show, he has so much reverence. I think parodies of things can become a bit dirty territory when it's just taking the piss out of them because you think they're bad. I think there's definitely examples in history of people making parodies of stuff purely because they just think it's a bad thing. So they're like, wow, look how bad this thing is. And I think there's a certain level of like cleverness to Stephen Moffat's writing in this, where he's like, I don't think Doctor Who's bad. I really enjoy it. I think it's really good. He even talks in the behind the scenes about like, the potential future of the show, which obviously we now know what happened. But his comments on things that are silly and that shouldn't be taken seriously, and pointing out things like the Daleks having chairs and like the companion always just kind of like accepting what the Doctor says, the whole running gag of I'll explain later and then never explaining anything. Like he has enough reverence to the show to do it justice while not avoiding or walking around the aspects that are silly or dumb or comical.
Complete tangent. I love the poo gags in this.
There's so many poo and so many fart gags. It's so funny.
It's just poo and fart gags, but somehow not too annoying.
Planet of the Bottom Burpers.
Yeah, Planet of the Bottom Burp. So what happened to them? They discovered fire.
Oh, the discovering fire. That was so funny. Yeah, I love that was their downfall.
It's like dad jokes, but works.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's like it's very much sitting on that line as well because red nose is a funny thing. Obviously, it's for like an adult audience, but depending on what point in the night your kids might be watching along as well.
Yeah.
So you need to have some jokes for the grown-ups in there too that are going to go slightly over the little ones' heads.
Yes, exactly.
So it kind of has to like strike that balance alongside all the kind of boob jokes.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few toilet humor bits in there too.
Yeah, they have a whole conversation where they're like, the tertians can speak through particular movements of air out the buttock. And then I love Emma. She goes up to the Dalek and she's like, can I be moved to another chair? Like when she realizes it's silly and camp. It's just dumb, but I love
And
this
the
kind
Dalek
of dumb
like
humor.
shakes its head as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's silly. It's dumb. I love it. I love the toilet humor in it. I love that there's that bit where the Doctor's farting and the Master's like, danger, the Daleks are and he sniffs and he can't quite work out what the Doctor's saying, and then Emma's like, sorry, that one was me. Like, it's just dumb. It's
He gets like a rogue word. It was funny. Again, like Jonathan Pryce, he plays that part where he's like trying to interpret like the fart language. He plays it like straight, which is really funny.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. But he's quite a classically trained actor. He was
a message.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
He was listing stuff he's done like James Bond. He was saying about playing Hamlet, and then to do this, I think that
Hamlet,
is the way that you play it. Like, I think you play the Master.
But of course, like all the classic Doctor Who villains, in fact, like half the cast, they were all classically trained Shakespearean actors.
For sure.
That's why they all sound like that. That's why all of Classic Who sounds so posh.
Yeah.
Is because they're all like theatre trained coming into television.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And like it leans into the performance as well. I think with this kind of comic relief special, there's so many different comic relief and children's needs specials throughout time. And like I think of the more recent ones we had, like Space and Time, the other Stephen Moffat one he did with Matt Smith, and that was very serious, and it's like considered canon because obviously it's with the main cast and it's within the TARDIS set, but it also has like another element of humor to it. I wonder if Stephen Moffat ever had a moment while he was writing this, The Curse of Death, and was just like, in 15 years I'm going to be doing another one of these. Like, like I wonder if he ever had like a precursor. But you just got to do it. It's silly, it's fun. And I also think with something like this, with the amount of time you have to hit the beats. You've got the Doctor, the Companion, the TARDIS, the Master, and the Daleks. I completely forgot the Daleks were in this until I rewatched it for this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Daleks are kind of essential. I think if you're going to do a Doctor Who parody, you can't not bring them in.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm glad they got in some of the jokes. Well, they didn't make the obvious one that they didn't do. They didn't do a stairs joke. They do have Daleks like repeatedly colliding into each other.
Yeah.
Like in the background of certain frames, they're kind of just shuffling around and like slamming into each other, which is quite funny.
Daleks don't have noses.
Yeah, I like that as well. They were the only ones who could tolerate the Master after he'd been in the sewer for 300 years because Daleks don't have noses. I thought it was quite funny. And they got Roy Skelton back, who he voiced the Daleks for more than 20 years from the early 60s. He wasn't asked back for the revival, but he was, in fairness, 73 by that point, and Nicholas Briggs
was a lot younger.
Fantastic. He did also, he praised Nicholas Briggs as well. When it came back, he was like, I think he said what Nicholas Briggs managed to do with the voice was give it more emotion. I remember like the first episode, Dalek. The Dalek sounds like sad and it's questioning itself and things at certain points. Whereas I think the Roy Skelton Dalek always asks questions like this and only gets more angry.
It's very shouting. The Daleks are talking like this all the time. And it's very robotic. Whereas I think that even like you said in that first episode, I always think of when there's the Clara Dalek, which is obviously meant to be a bit more humor. And it's like, they hate you so much. Like he really does get that Dalek-y voice while having the humanity behind it.
I think he penned a rule with his Dalek voice, which was like the Dalek voice can only go higher, not lower. So like as they get angrier, it goes higher and higher and higher.
I wonder why though. That's it. I feel like there's something interesting about Dalek being like belly angry, because the whole thing is the only emotion they have. Cybermen remove all emotion, but Daleks have hate still. And I think something about belly, anger, and bottle. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Dalek anger is like hysterical anger, isn't it? It's like it's like a tantrum.
Yeah, no, that's true. I do love just the nature of this episode being a parody of itself. I love the Dalek like gives a command and then changes his mind, and she goes like, why do Daleks always change their mind at the last moment? And he's like, I'll explain later. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, there's so many silly things with the Daleks.
Given that exterminating you would be the most sensible thing to do, why do they always change their minds at the last moment?
I'll explain later. And even like it's funny in the behind the scenes because half of the people involved in this actually do, like, they clearly watch Doctor Who growing up. They have like an actual fear of the Daleks, or like they invoke some kind of emotion. Like Joanna Lumley is like, oh no, I genuinely, like, I think they're scary. When you see them come around the corner, they're very ominous. And then there's Richard E. Grant, and he's just like, yeah, there's something. They are something.
Well, that's another thing that I think is so interesting about this is this whole cast has such different perspectives on Who, and it's such an interesting time to almost get this snapshot of what do actors think of Doctor Who, even at the point that they are in a Doctor Who parody. Like, Jonathan Pryce is in it, and he's not seen the Master before. He's looked at photos of the Master to, like, prep for this, which is very funny. Richard E. Grant, as you say, like, he basically said he doesn't know anything about the show. He's like, I don't really have any memories of this. Joanna Lumley, she was being sarcastic. She was like, yeah, I researched this role from childhood. Hugh Grant, like, seems to be a bit more familiar with it. He's like, oh yeah, I was scared of the Daleks as a child, and always had nightmares. And he jokes that meeting the Daleks allowed him to exercise his fears, and he'll move on as a more centered human being, having met them now.
Right. Sure.
They all describe it like as a dead show. The way that they talk about Doctor Who. It's very much like...
The only person who doesn't, Stephen Moffat.
No, but even when they ask, like, Jim Broadbent, like, and he's like, oh yeah, I was a big fan. I was a really big fan. It's almost like sort of like people were Doctor Who fans.
What I've realised as well, just talking about this, is the behind the scenes documentary. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, you actually should go watch it. There's like a double bill, like as it was on the VHS tape on YouTube, where you can watch the episode and then watch the behind the scenes. Rowan Atkinson doesn't feature in the behind the scenes.
No, he's not in it, is he? No.
Everyone else does. Julius Waher, like Everett the Master, all the other doctors, like every single other doctor is in it. But like, I don't know whether his deal said like, no, I'm not doing any behind the scenes or anything, because he literally is the only person to not get any talking heads in it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Maybe he wasn't
it's a weird one.
on the set. I don't know. He would have been there.
Maybe he was on set every day, all 3 days of that shoot.
They filmed it for 3 days, didn't they? Which is quite tight.
Maybe he was just always busy filming, because I guess he's on set. But Emma, like Julia Swallow, she gets interviews. I don't know. I like that they show... I'm just so glad they made the behind the scenes, because like you said, it is a real snapshot of the time. And also just like small level TV production. There's a really funny shot, because obviously I work in TV. No, I saw the shot where the Dalek is going up to catering. I just thought that was really funny, because that's like how I get my lunch every day. And I was like, oh, that's really funny. Like the Dalek, like, I just thought it was a really funny visual gag. And then they're interviewing the caterer.
I just love the BTS of TV and film. Every now and then I think I want to work in TV, and then hear about it from you, and I think, never mind. But every now and then I think, oh, I should have worked in telly.
I had a double bill thing today, because I got on the bus from lunch, and I was sat directly in front of the mum from Outnumbered, who was in The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. Claire Skinner, that was it. I was sat literally directly, she was in the seat behind me, and then as we were driving home from lunch, Nick pointed something out, and there was a unit base for TV production. There were loads of movie makers, sets and trailers and stuff. And I was like, oh, there's no escape from Doctor Who TV world.
It's cool. No, it's cool. I mean, it's stressful. That's what I mean. The stress. But then, some trade-off. You've just,
for sure.
Production you were working on. Renegade Now,
streaming
out for the now world. On Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's definitely the most fun thing. Like, not the most fun thing I've worked. That's definitely the one where I was on it the longest and like felt quite like a camaraderie with my colleagues. Like, I've become friends with them the most, I feel.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's loads of fun. I don't mean to sound pessimistic. There's loads of fun to be having TV and film, and I think especially on a short shoot like this. Like, this is only a 3-day shoot. They all seem to just have a load of fun with it. Like, even the BTS. Like,
maybe you only work on comic relief now. But an observation, I guess, from me, it's interesting. I feel like comic relief used to be a huge deal. I feel it is still a big deal. It is a really big deal. They still raise tens of millions of pounds on the night. For Red Nose Day specifically. The comic relief is the charity. Red Nose Day is the telethon night. But I think the night used to be a bit more loose than it is now, and a bit more like anything can happen, and a bit more chaotic.
I think that's the nature of TV production as well, isn't it? That, like, you've got to be a bit safer.
That's it. It's all a lot safer now. And I think sketches had a lot of big names attached to it. I think French and Saunders, I remember doing a lot of stuff for this, and then they obviously retired from comedy. But I think broadly there was a lot of really good comedy on the BBC as well. I think the BBC really was like an established like home of comedy.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I don't know. Anyway, at the time they raised on this night, just fun fact I'll throw in now, they raised £35 million on that night, which is £76 million in today's money.
Yes, oh my God, amazing.
That's how I do prep for Wholala. But yeah, streaming services, people haven't got as much cash anymore. It's not.
It kind of muddies the waters a bit. Like people, I remember when I was young, so when this would have been on, only having channels 1 through 4.
Yeah.
So you had 1, 2, 3, and 4, and maybe the red button. And then so when Comic Relief came on, that was a huge deal and a really big night and a spectacle. And I definitely remember, I mean, there's so many great, like we could do a podcast on like charity sketches. Like the Mamma Mia parody, I don't know if you remember that. That was so funny. French and Saunders for Comic Relief as well. They did a Harry Potter parody that was so funny. And then recently there's been, you know, other stuff, but there's nothing really that sticks out to me in the same way as this. Even Doctor Who, like, there's so many Doctor Who charity specials for both Children in Need and Comic Relief, like Time Crash and Born Again and Space and Time. Those really stick with me. But then I think Space and Time, which would have been 2011, that was the last one that I really remember being like, oh, I can't wait to watch this because of the Doctor Who thing. Like, I mean, which is quite sad to say because they even recently had the Dalek short with the 14th Doctor for Comic Relief only last year. But even that one didn't really stick with me in the same way.
I think as well, this was all pre-YouTube. So now if I want to see that bit, I'll just see that bit on YouTube. Or I'll cycle back on iPlayer a bit. But pre-iPlayer, it was like you watch it live and that's it for a while. You know, if there's a video release at some point, great. Or if you're recording it, you can record it. It's all changed, Sam. It's all changed.
It's all changed.
Not the same for these kiddies anymore, is it?
No, it's not the same for the kiddies. No. I'll tell you something that is the same, though, at least for Classic Who in this. The sets. I actually had the sets as a note on here because I thought
the sets were
for
fun.
Such a tiny budget, it was so fun. And I could fully believe that they would be the sets for a classic episode of Doctor Who. If you had shown me the print screens of the locations and not told me what this was, I probably would have just assumed it was an episode of Classic Who. They have a very classic feel to them, and I think they're trying to like not pinpoint what era of Classic Who they're talking about. Like the titles are from the 4th Doctor, but they have graphics from the TV movie. Like it just feels very reminiscent of that like entire era.
Yeah, I was gonna say the planet they land on and the corridors they run through and those bits. I was thinking a lot of effort went into building those.
Yeah,
you're right. They look like Classic Who sets. And it's funny as well. I love the, we've said it before, but the in-joke is good. You know, all these corridors look the same. I love that. Did you know that the Daleks and the TARDIS sets were built by enthusiasts?
Not until I watched the behind the scenes. Not until I watched that.
Well, darling, let me elaborate on this for our dear listeners as well. They were built, as ever for these kind of things, for fan productions, and the BBC were aware of that, and they were like, we love the look of your TARDIS sets / your Daleks. We'll have those, thanks. So, funny enough, the production that these TARDIS sets were used in, or it might just be one TARDIS set that's coloured a couple of ways. I'm not sure actually if it's more than one TARDIS. But
I think it's the same TARDIS, but they replaced the inner column to be red instead of green.
So during the 90s, in the Wilderness era, a large number of fan-produced audio, film, and video productions were made to keep the Doctor Who brand alive during those years. And I think the production that these were taken from was called Devious, a fan production. And funny enough, actually starred John Pertwee. So I didn't know this, but fan productions were really well attended by previous Doctors. So with the exception of Tom Baker, all surviving Doctor Who actors, including Pertwee, had participated in at least one of those productions.
I'm just looking up now. That's so funny. I'd seen a clip of that before, and I had no idea what it was from. Oh, so it's like because there was another guy who was quite older playing the second Doctor, and then it ends with him regenerating into John Pertwee, and he falls out the TARDIS in the same way he does. How funny! You know what? A check's a check.
A check's a check, and it's weird. Apparently, sometimes these were BBC approved. Sometimes they were just BBC published. Anyway, if Doctor Who goes down again, Disney deal drops, funding's not there, BBC doesn't want it. You and me, Sam, we're golden. We'll just reach out to Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah, we'll reach out to Jodie.
So have we got a deal for you? We've got a crowdfunder and
Do you
an
know
idea
what?
and a dream.
Me and Alistair, like, I'm talking to the audience now, dear audience. Me and Alistair have spoken about this a lot. We're like, okay, actors are all actors, and they all do their work for pay. How much would we have to pay to be getting Billie Piper? Wholala? How much would we have to pay to get
how much
X,
would she be?
Y, and Z? But I think if there was another Wilderness Years, I could definitely foresee, especially in this era of like everyone can be a filmmaker if you want, and there's so much technology available to make things look really, really good, that if Doctor Who got fully pulled, people could do it, I think. Yeah, why not?
We could, we just need some cash.
Exactly, we'll do a GoFundMe. But no, I love that I had no idea that the Daleks and the TARDIS problem that were fan-made. I love it. I love that there is an original Dalek design as well, because a lot of them are very reminiscent or copies of classic Daleks, but the main one, the one that's gold and black, that's like a wholly original Dalek design. That gold and black design doesn't exist in any other episode. So I love that, like, the Curse of Fatal Death has its own Dalek, and I love how involved the guy who made all of this was. He's like on set, he's talking about the ping pong balls that he sanded to put in the TARDIS and how he made the Daleks. And also, this was like pre-internet in the world that it is now anyway. And so he was saying there's no real measurements. Like now, if you want, I've looked it up. You can like download the measurements on how you build your own Dalek and like the step by step. He was saying he just had to like figure out as he went. He was like, I guess like nothing's probably perfect, but all it's meant to do is be reminiscent of the thing you're trying to make. You just want it to be as realistic as you can, which is such a fun mentality. And I love that it's now had some kind of on-screen capacity within the BBC.
I love that as well. I think so much of the show's longevity is down to the insane passion of the fans.
Yeah.
Just to keep this thing alive. And that every time the show comes back or reinvents itself, it scoops up a whole bunch of new fans who 10, 20 years later end up working in television, some portion of them, and end up like working back on the show. And I feel like all the way through, you just have people who are working on Doctor Who, who've grown up with Doctor Who, and that just kind of almost perpetuates itself over time.
Exactly.
It's funny as well, people keep forgetting that there are people inside the Daleks. There'd be like, so Lumley was like, is anyone still in there? Yes, I can feel some hot breath coming out the railings like a caged hamster.
Exactly. It's so funny. I always think that with things like R2D2 and the Daleks and that, I'm like, oh yeah, there really are, people in there making this happen. They're not actual things. No, I think that's so funny in the behind the scenes, seeing people getting left behind in the Daleks.
Yeah. There's a lot of booby jokes. People made fun of me last week for saying booby, but I'm going to
just keep saying boobies.
A lot of boob jokes in this.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't do now, but I wouldn't say are in themselves offensive. I think it's almost like panto humor.
It's very panto humor. Can I say my favourite one?
Oh, go on. Yeah, go on.
My favourite one is when the Master has his Dalek orbs and they're making the jokes. They're like, oh, you've got breasts. And he's like, oh, no, blah, 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 blah. But it's when he's walking around the Doctor and Emma and he's talking about it and he goes, and they are extremely firm. And Emma looks him up and down and goes, what are you trying to say? And he goes, oh, nothing. And then walks away. And I just think that is so, like, it's not a cancelable joke, but I don't think it would end up on a comic relief sketch now. I just think it's so funny.
You would not do it now. You would not do it now. You wouldn't do it now, but it's still funny. I think you wouldn't do it now partly out of, like, respect to the fact that we have had a female Doctor and it would just feel disrespectful to be making these jokes, I think, about kind of like, but it is funny. And yeah, I like as well, like, and you still fear me, Doctor? You're the camp one. I'm not camp. Oh yeah, nice tits. And also, every time the Master like parts his coat, like the orbs get whipped out. The Dalek bumps just become like aggressively on display very suddenly.
I know. When Joanna Lumley gets regenerated and she's like, they're called like tractor beams or something. She's like, I've got tractor beams. It's so, it's definitely written by Stephen Moffat. That's all I'll say.
It's very written by Stephen Moffat.
I think we should give a second to talk about the other Doctors, because we talked a lot about Rowan Atkinson, sort of mentioned the others.
Oh yeah, we should.
We do get a nice cluster of potential other Doctors, and it's quite funny because Richard E. Grant then went on to play a Wilderness Years Doctor in an official format in the animated web series, and then also later appeared as the Great Intelligence in Doctor Who Series 7B. And I feel like, to be honest, any of these actors, maybe not today, but certainly at the time, if you had announced and said Richard E. Grant or Hugh Grant or whoever is going to be the Doctor, I definitely could see it for any of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richard E. Grant, I don't know if you saw him in Loki, when
Oh,
he
yeah,
played
yeah.
a variant. He was so good.
Really good.
Like, so good.
Yeah.
I have no doubt he would have been and still would be an exceptionally good Doctor.
Yeah.
If Doctor Who ever did a story where they introduced, like 5 future Doctors, Loki style, I'd love to see, someone like that in the lineup. Would
Yeah.
be great fun. Even just like in passing would be really fun.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant's Doctor is super believable as well as
Oh,
the
for sure.
suave, handsome, Tennant-esque Doctor.
Yeah.
He's very plausible.
And he's also got that kind of air of like, not like the Richard E. Grant Doctor is the one who like loves himself, but Hugh Grant kind of acts like he doesn't know he's hot. He's like, oh god, I've gone and used all my bodies, now I'm stuck with this one. And Emma's like, that's fine by me. And I think that's kind of the way you play that. I can see him like that's kind of how David Tennant kind of played the 10th Doctor. But yeah, they all bring something obviously funny to the role. Like they're all kind of a caricature of themselves. I really like Jim Broadbent's Doctor. He's like, oh no, you're one of the girls. I can't. Oh, and he's like playing the shy Doctor.
Oh, there's another one.
Oh, there's another one. They're all like really big caricatures themselves, but they all have humor in their own way.
It's a really good lineup. I was thinking as well, off the back of this, who would my dream Doctor Who casting be? But to be honest, whenever I see like dream castings, so often I find myself really rolling my eyes because there's certain names that get thrown up for everything that I don't agree with. Like the Richard Ayoade thing. I'm like,
oh no, I
saying
don't.
Richard
I don't
Ayoade
want
now.
Richard Ayoade. I think Hayley Atwell would be a great Doctor. I know her name does get thrown around a lot, but I still stand by the fact. But now we're at the point where it's like, where do you draw the line at what's a too famous Doctor? Like, who becomes too famous to be the Doctor?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't think I want to see A-listers play the Doctor. Unless, like I said, in passing, as like a future version, a variant of,
as a John Hurt. You mean like a John Hurt?
Yeah, like a short thing. I like it. I think I like the idea of a relative unknown who's maybe got a few acting bits on their belt, but isn't a household name yet.
Yeah.
Who can really carve themselves out. I think it's great. I think I find it in general distracting when you have a really A-list cast where everyone's really famous.
That's
sometimes.
very true. I do think, and maybe this is selfish as a Doctor Who fan, because I would never want anyone's career trajectory to go down once they've finished in the show. But unless you're playing,
they should retire.
They should retire.
I think you should play the Doctor and then retire.
No, I'm not saying that. Unless you're doing like a Joe Martin or John Hurt, where you're playing the Doctor in like a one-off-ish setting, I feel like Doctor Who should be the thing you are most known for. And I think that should be freeing in a way. Like, I think David Tennant is a really good example where he's done so much since Doctor Who. He has become a worldwide name. He's done Broadchurch, he's done Hamlet, he's got so many accolades under his belt. But for better or for worse, the thing he probably will be most known for and most remembered for is Doctor Who. And I think that I would struggle with someone who has already established themselves as, like, when I think of Hayley Atwell, I think of Captain America. And I think it would be quite challenging, much as I do think she'd make a great Doctor, to be like, oh, it's a bit like, this is a really random example to bring it back full circle. When I was sat on the bus today with Claire Skinner behind me, I didn't go, that's Claire Skinner from The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe. I was like, oh, that's Claire Skinner from Outnumbered.
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like if you're going to play the Doctor is the thing that you should be most known for.
If Claire Skinner had been a Doctor, you'd know her from Doctor Who in the way that
that's fair.
Ncuti Gatwa, you will know as Ncuti Gatwa from Doctor Who, but you still right now you know as Ncuti Gatwa from Sex Education.
No, that's true. But I guess I'd argue like different levels of show, like the different scale of show and stuff.
That's true. I guess yes. I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying. I think not that you can't eclipse Doctor Who later, but that maybe you shouldn't come on to Doctor Who more well known.
Exactly. Well, Peter Capaldi had a full
rival or larger.
Yeah, before he did it.
Right. I get that. I do get that. That's good. That's an interesting take. Yeah. I think I agree with that.
I don't think it's a particularly like hot take. I just that's my take.
No. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I mean, as well, they could lean in more to what the Ninth Doctor says, right? Which is like the Doctor can be anything as well, like any animal, creature. I might have no head.
2 heads.
Imagine me with no head.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Don't say that's an improvement.
I don't think they ever will do that purely from a production standpoint. That would be a lot of big. Apparently, the TED TV series that they've just done for, I think, Sky is the most expensive TV series per episode to produce more so than like, I don't know, Friends, where you're paying the cast $1 million an episode purely because of how much it costs to animate the bear. So I feel like they actually never will do a Doctor that's too non-human, because otherwise you're just bringing a lot of extra costs.
I do still want the Penguin to be a companion. Frobisher the Penguin is a canonical companion of the Sixth Doctor. From comics?
From expanded. He originated in the comic, but he has since featured in other expanded media such as Big Finish.
Okay. Also, there's no canon, so, but you know what I mean. As in, there's it's a Big Finish's audio, so what does Frobisher sound like?
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. If I had to do an impression of Frobisher.
Hey, Frobisher here.
Hello, Doctor. Hello, Doctor. I'm Frobisher the Penguin.
Oh my god, Danny DeVito, the Frobisher Penguin, please.
Oh my god. Now, Alasdair.
Yes.
For a very camp episode of Doctor Who, it's been hard to narrow it down, but would you like to play a little game?
A little game?
A little game.
A little game? Go on.
Of camp. Oh, damn!
Woohoo! Yeah!
So, I have narrowed this down to 3 camp elements this episode. I'm not saying these are the most camp, I'm not saying they're the only camp, but it's such a camp episode of Doctor Who. I've got 3 moments I wanted to share with you.
Okay.
Number 1, Jonathan Pryce's master. Camp or damn?
So camp. So camp, though he denied.
Right?
So camp.
He's the camp one.
Every master is camp. But so camp. The costume is camp, the performance is camp, the lines are camp.
It's camp.
It's camp, like certified. One of the campest things we've ever reviewed on here, for sure. Camp.
Yeah, for sure. Dalek bumps, camp or damp.
They're camp. I like the way that they're revealed as well, like with a flourish, like
he pulls his jacket back and they're just
pulling
there.
the jacket apart and revealing the Dalek bumps. Really funny, really camp. Them being firm, all very funny.
And finally, Joanna Lumley's vibrating sonic screwdriver with 3 settings. Camp or damn.
So this is funny. It's not, again, not one you'd repeat.
It's
now.
of the time. It's of the time.
It made sense for the context it was in.
I wouldn't write it today.
You wouldn't write it today. It's funny in the context of a world where Doctor Who was kind of a closed chapter and they'd never done a female Doctor, and so it would never be explored. And in itself was, I guess, almost a bit of a joke around how it could be a bit ham-fisted, done wrong.
There's definitely, I think that's the right way to think about it, is thinking like, well, this is how it could be done if it was done wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it was trying to say, this is why we shouldn't have one or why the idea is absurd. I think it was almost a parody of what some people felt a female Doctor would be. So
it's a bit like when people talk derogatively about the people who are like, oh, you can't let a woman be a pilot. You know what I mean? But like exactly. That kind of stuff. It's like if someone like that were to write the Doctor, this is probably how it would be.
And that man was Stephen Moffat. No. But I think it was meant to be self-aware. I'm pretty sure it was self-aware. I don't know. Maybe it
Let's
wasn't.
say if it was self-aware, camp, and if not, very damp.
Yeah, if not damp. So it straddles a line.
So I do have a couple fun facts for you as well, Alasdair.
Oh.
So The Curse of Fatal Death has twice been featured as the cover on Doctor Who magazine, which is an unusual feat even for a regular episode of the programme. Comic Relief Sketches never had a double feature on the magazine.
They needed the content. They needed the covers. Doctor Who magazine ran all the way through the Wilderness years, did it not?
It did. It's never ever stopped. And in fact, it's the only Comic Relief story to be covered by the Doctor Who magazine archives, a section for Doctor Who magazine normally reserved for discussion on past episodes of the regular series.
I think the content was probably quite dry at a few points through the 90s.
Similarly, it's the only parody of Doctor Who to be given an extensive behind-the-scenes article on the BBC official website and its own video release through BBC Video. It is also the only BBC-commissioned live-action Doctor Who production between the Doctor Who television movie and Rose.
Yes. And I don't know what the reaction was off this, if this like nursed any nostalgia for the show and people thought, oh, maybe we should do it again. Who would be a modern Doctor? It sounds like it didn't, because a further kind of 6 years went on without anything on TV. But
well, yeah, I don't know if it'll be like directly an influence, but they announced the new series in 2004, which meant it was in early development in 2003.
That's true.
and this aired in 1999.
Yeah.
So that's only giving you 3.5 years between this releasing and them officially saying, right, we're going to look into starting a new series on 2. So let's say for fun, it had something to play in it.
This is the other thing, right? Is that despite kind of a lot of like mixed, like, you know, memories of the show and the ability to parody it, it shows that even quite a long time after it had been off air, it was still very much a famous brand that people were willing to kind of come on and play a role associated with it.
Yeah.
That it was culturally relevant enough that you could do a parody that people would understand and find funny.
For sure.
That there were still people like Stephen Moffat rattling around who wanted to write something funny about it.
Well, I always think about, you know, Russell T Davies was writing Queer as Folk and throwing a million Doctor Who references into that. Like The Simpsons. How many times in The Simpsons, and this in the Wilderness years, I mean, pre-2005, would you see like Tom Baker in the background as the Doctor, like for a sci-fi convention or something? Like Doctor Who, even when it wasn't on air, has always had, and I'll be as bold to say, always had a global cultural relevancy. And so I think that it just is a testament to the show to say it hadn't officially been on since the late 80s. It had the one TV movie in the mid 90s. And in 1999, you can do a parody for no apparent reason. Like, when you think of it now, you normally get a comic relief parody for something that is happening. So when they did the Harry Potter one, when they did the Mamma Mia one, when they do the Traitors one, it's for something that is currently in the public eye. For them to take this and say, here's a parody of a TV show that's been off air for the better part of 10 years, like, that's surely saying something about the content of the show itself.
I think that's very much true. That's very much true. Doctor will probably be with us until we die now.
It's going to outlive all of us, I'll tell you that. Oh, what a lovely tone to end the episode on.
What a lovely thought. Be with us till the end.
Yes, exactly. It's going to be with us till the end. And thank you, dear listener, for staying with us to the end of this episode. We much appreciate it. Please let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please do let us know, what do you think of The Curse, The Fatal Death? You can reach out to us on all of our social platforms. We're on X, the app formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, all of which are at Wholala Pod. And you can also rewatch old episodes of the podcast on our YouTube channel, which is at Wholala Pod.
Yes, and if you'd like to support the podcast, we'd be very grateful for you to leave a review. Tell us what you thought. Ideally, you thought it was a 5-star episode and indeed a 5-star show. Get in touch with us. Share this episode on Instagram, on your story, any way you like. Screen record a bit and show everyone how funny it was.
Exactly.
And share it with a friend.
Let us know. And please donate to our coffee KO-FI. We're trying to get a Dalek, a life-size Dalek, $4,500. We're about £8 in.
Yeah. We're £8 in. No, we're a long way off. But yes, thank you to anyone who had supported us through coffee. We very, very, very much appreciate that.
Now make sure you jump back into your TARDIS for next Thursday's release of Wholala, as we are talking about The Revival Companions Part 4, continuing our series where we'll be talking about Clara and Bill. Very Stephen Moffat.
Yes, very Moffat-y. We're continuing a Moffat theme here.
Exactly. Well, until then, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
See you very soon. Have a lovely week.
Bye.
Bye.